Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Mental Health Detox. And I'd like to welcome you to part two of the Motherhood, Maternity, and Mental Health discussion. Join me as I sit down with a whole new set of moms and discuss some of the mental health challenges that relates to parenting. All right, I'll see you after this episode. I would like to thank y'all for joining me on the Mental Health Detox and coming today just to talk about motherhood, mental health, and maternity. I do have a question. I'm just going to jump right into it because I feel like we got a lot to discuss, a lot to share, a lot to learn. And I don't want to waste time with just a little chatty Cathy conversation. But tell me a little bit about yourselves. Tell me about your family. Tell me a little bit about your life. And anybody can chime in, start first. Go for it.
I'm Lindsey. I'm a family nurse practitioner, but I have been working in pediatric primary care for most of my medical career. And I am a semi-new mom. I have an almost 2-year-old. Her dad and I were married for about 5 years and did IVF to have her. So that's been a whole other host of mental health moments.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Stacy Stewart, and I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I'm a mom to a 5-year-old little boy who will start school this August, and a 3.5-year-old little girl. So I'm excited to be a part of this conversation and hearing from all of you other fellow moms.
Hi, I am Aliyah. I am a grad student right now for marriage and family counseling, and I have a 3-month-old, and so that's crazy. I'm in school for full-time, mother full-time, and working full-time overnight, so my life is hectic, and
that's full-time. And can you please tell us what this beautiful lady's name is?
Yes, this is Harlem, and she's really nosy, so she might have some input too.
She's so pretty.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kimberly Brown, and I am a communications instructor and a mom of 2 girls, age 6 and 18 months.
Good deal. That's interesting because on the last call, I had a mom on there who had teenagers. So everybody on this call is like 6 and below. We all got little small kids and infants. So I wonder if our conversation is going to be a little bit different. And Aliyah, I really kind of want you to chime in first. But what are some of the challenges that you have been facing with being a mom?
I think right now my biggest challenge has been like daycare and whatnot, because for my program we meet at maybe after 5:30, or class starts at 5:30. Most daycares in Birmingham are all that I found close at 6:30. And I work overnight, and my partner doesn't get off work from his job until 11. And so with daycares closing at 6:30, that was a challenge, trying to figure out what we were going to do and finding people to keep her. So childcare, and also, I'm not from Birmingham, and so my support system is really back home. I have a lot of friends, though, who have really been helping, and his family have been really helpful. I don't know. Challenges, like everything seems easy until I'm in the middle of something. I think the biggest difference for me right now is just like not being able to get up and go, like going to Target is a huge thing. So
it is. It really is.
Readjusting, I guess, is just mostly the biggest challenge, is adjusting to new life and all
I
the
can remember going to Target with AJ when he was he had to be like 2 months. So I finally decided, I was like, I'm gonna get out this house because I am not gonna be a hermit. And so like literally Target is maybe a 10-minute drive from my house, but it took us like 30, 40 minutes. Just not with just, only getting him together and getting him in the car, but he cried the whole way. I kept having to pull over because I was so scared. Like, what's wrong with him? Why is he crying? Like, I kept having to stop. And then I sat in the back seat. I breastfed him. I was like, this is too much. And so I ended up like getting to Target, got there, didn't even want to get out the car. So I just turned back around and went home. Like, I was like, we'll just try again later because it was too much. But it is a challenge just transporting with kids. Like, oh my goodness. But anywho, somebody else chime in and tell us a little bit about themselves or some of the challenges that they faced.
For me, I do the same job now as I did before I became a mother. But the way I work is very different. I used to be the person who, oh yeah, there's a walk-in, put them on my schedule. Oh yeah, someone's coming in at close, I'll see them. To kind of piggyback off what she was saying, it's like, well, daycare closes at 5:15 here. So like, I got to go. It's $1 a minute. I can't, so the challenge has been mostly, I think, with my work-life balance and the group of people that I work with adjusting to me not performing in the same way. And I don't want to say that I give a poorer performance now that I'm a mother, but it's just different because I have additional responsibilities outside of the home. And the coworkers I have who have children get it. The ones who don't sometimes don't understand, like, oh, well, why are you calling out all the time? Well, I'm not sick and my baby is. Like, I could come to work, but I can't put her in a pack and play and just leave her there for 8 hours. So my work performance has definitely been affected.
And that's interesting that you said that because I think I felt the same way. Like I'm, having to be a little bit more firm with my work-life boundaries. And so, I used to be able to, okay, I'm gonna meet with night shift, I'll hop on a Zoom at 5:30 or 8:30 tonight, check in with the night shift people, or I'll come in on the weekend, just kind of sporadic or whatever. And I'm just like, from 8 to 9, my baby is cutting up, because it's feed time and bedtime. He probably need a bath. I mean, it's loud here at the Baker household. And I'm just like, I try to do a Zoom education with some of the night shift staff, and they're just like, Caroline, you might want to just go ahead and go. We got it. Like, we'll figure it out. It's just like a lot going on. So I feel like, man, they're probably like, oh, she's slacking. She got a baby and all this stuff. But it does kind of weigh on you kind of hard when you can't perform like you used to with work and stuff. Kim, what about you? How's some of the challenges you were facing?
Originally, before I had my first child, I was working in radio. I was doing promotions, and in radio life, it's always nighttime events, on location events for hours on end. And after I had my baby, I had to really pull back and say, well, I can't be out at the club doing the radio event until 2 a.m. because I got a baby now or whatnot. And I ended up having to leave that job and go into higher ed, which was a little bit more stable. But then again, it's like, I can only work these certain times because of childcare. I don't have like daycare or anything like that. Luckily, I have my mom that is here with me now to help watch them when I have to go to work. But it was hard in the beginning, very hard, because I was by myself and my partner was at work all the time. And then I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But that's one of the challenges, daycare and your job really wanting to work with you versus saying they're going to work with you. And then when it's time to say, hey, I have to take off, my kid's sick, or I need to leave early, they're like, well, you left early yesterday. What's going to happen today? Or do we need to find somebody else?
Yeah, I can imagine that's a real uncomfortable conversation to have with your boss. And like I'm fortunate enough that I have my mother here, with us, but I can just imagine when she go home, I'm probably gonna fall apart, and I'll probably share in that same struggle of childcare because both myself and my husband, we work the same day shift type schedule. So I'm like, he needs to either go to evenings or weekends or something, a night shift or something. Somebody gonna have to do something because childcare is a big concern. I know, especially on my brain, as far as like, when my mom leaves, like, what are we gonna do now? So I share that same thought. Stacy, what about you?
Yeah. So everything that's been said is super relatable. Um, let's be honest too, not only is childcare super hard to find for hours fitting anything other than the normal quote 8 to 5-ish type situation, but it's expensive. I mean, it is really expensive. And, having the additional one back to back, our second little surprise, it's definitely something that you have to financially consider. My husband's parents are in South Alabama, close to Mobile. My mom still works full time and stuff. My father isn't with us anymore. So, like daycare was it. And at that point, when I first had my son, I was still a registered nurse at UAB. And I worked night shift, I've worked day shift, I've worked all different types of shifts. I've worked flexi, I've worked Baylor. But you're right. It was I would take them, but my husband would have to get them because, I would drop them at 6:30 and our daycare closed at 6. Well, as a nurse, you're not clocking out till at 6:53. And
Yeah.
so UAB anyway, and I was in the ED, I was an ER nurse and at that point. So I think that there is a huge need. I think we've all sat here and identified that there is a huge need for daycares that are flexible. Need I say even a 24-hour type service. Of course, they can't be on every corner, but certainly, in very opportune locations, Birmingham, things like that, where there's lots of folks that work around the clock. I think that's a great, a great business idea for someone, not me, but for someone. But yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing that was something that I had to really work through as a new mom is not only the work-life balance of having those boundaries with my employer, but it was the work-life balance too, with taking time for myself and for the needs that I would have to provide for my kid, for my baby. For example, nursing, pumping, breastfeeding. And if you choose to do it, great. If you choose to not do it, great. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is trying to prioritize when you are at work, right? And you're trying to be the best you can be. You still have to say, hold up, and I've got to go pump. I will be gone for 15 minutes. I'll be back. And so again, some of those, like Lindsey referred to, some of those coworkers who are mothers and maybe who did choose to breastfeed or, nursed, they understood that. I gotcha. You'll be back in a minute. I'll don't worry about it. And then the ones who are maybe never been in that situation just kind of look and think, oh, I gotta take up her slack one more time. And, oh, this is old and whatever. And so it's really identifying those priorities that you have set for yourself, I think, is what helped me, and just kind of navigating. And I was always just really honest with my coworkers and even my family about what was really important to our family and to myself and what I thought was very important for my baby, and just tried to have that open discussion with my colleagues as well, and ask me questions, or if it, if anything's bothering you, come to me. And I think that helped alleviate some of the pressure I felt. And I hope that it opened up the communication for my colleagues and other family members if something was off-putting to them.
What are some of the mental health challenges that you all have experienced, whether it was when you were pregnant, freshly as a new mom, or kind of where you are now with your child? What are some of the mental health challenges you all have faced?
For me, definitely separation anxiety. I think that have always kind of dealt with anxiety in general, but this anxiety is like a new type of anxiety, and like the excessive need to be overprotective, I think, and to be the one to do it. And I don't know, I had a panic attack in my sleep, which was like the only, like, that was new for me. I've had panic attacks before, but never like something to wake me up. So anxiety for me is the biggest one.
I can imagine.
Totally
I can
agree.
also relate with that too.
Yeah, I totally agree. My personal story would have definitely leaned more to the anxiety side of, man, I've got to watch them. What if they stop breathing? To what if I trip and fall? And these are very common feelings that majority of moms experience. But I was feeling that they were in a way I'd never really kind of thought of myself as a very anxious person, just a constant worrier or anything like that. And as a new mother, I definitely noticed that I was spending a lot of time being preoccupied with the what ifs, or, the checking to make sure's a lot of the time. So, there was, I believe, the expected normal baby blues type thing, even though I really don't know that I experienced that. But man, I had enough anxiety that I didn't need the depression component with it. But yeah, I remember thinking, and this was before, again, I was a psychiatric nurse practitioner with the additional kind of training and knowledge just that we have to acquire to pass boards. But is this wrong? Like, something is wrong, or I felt like it was wrong. And then I did share those things with my OB, and she reassured me that no, this is not an incongruent, amount of anxiety that we would consider abnormal. And that helped me. But I felt comfortable to share that with my OB. And I didn't feel like I was going to be judged or that I would be dismissed. We're actually really good friends. So maybe that's another reason why I felt safe. But I know that so many of my friends and even family members haven't felt safe to disclose the true way that they felt, out of fear that they would either be judged harshly or even worse, in my opinion, dismissed, and that their concern wouldn't be considered serious.
Yeah.
I think
having go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd be interested to hear in the moms with kids 2 and under. Like for me, March 2020, the world went into lockdown, and then 2 months later she was born. And when I was in active labor, I had my legs crossed outside the ER, and they were screening before they let me in the hospital. Because I was having my baby. And finally this older nurse just like, get out of the way, and put me in a wheelchair and brought me in so I could have her. So yeah, I had really, I never saw a doctor, but I think, self-diagnosed really intense postpartum anxiety after she was born. And anxiety was not something I had struggled with in my past. And so I've wondered how much of that is like, oh my gosh, I'm having a baby during COVID versus what I have felt that anyway, and it sounds like anxiety just postpartum is really common anyway, but I'm interested for people who've had these COVID babies, what your experiences have been. Oh.
Well, I will say my experience, like going into it, I had anxiety. had anxiety just from other people's anxiety about what they experienced with their childbirth process. And I had to, it got to a point where I was just like, okay, don't tell me no more stories or your experiences or what happened, what went wrong with you when you had your baby, because I just don't need that influence. But yeah, I can remember, just having that anxiety of, what if we get COVID at the last minute? What's going to happen now? And then I think like maybe the last month of my pregnancy, there was like maybe 7, 8 women who were hospitalized at UAB who were pregnant and they had COVID. And they were having to deliver their babies early. Some lost babies. Some like others ended up dying. Like, it was just a lot to think about. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, what are we gonna do? I gotta, like, I have to put myself in a bubble, protect myself, because I don't want anything to go wrong. I don't want to catch COVID and end up hospitalized on the ventilator and have not being there to see my baby or whatever. So it definitely was a lot of anxiety to carry. And like Stacy, I had a really good OBGYN that I felt comfortable with just talking to and just being open with. But also, like, I had a good overwhelming support of friends who either recently just had babies, like within the last 1 or 2 years, who were just telling me, hey, you're going to feel this. It's okay that you might be anxious. It's okay that you might be scared. It's okay that you're going to feel these things, because I felt them too. And so I didn't have to be the one to say, I'm experiencing this. Is this normal? They kind of told me it was normal. So that was helpful for me with anxiety. But yeah, I can remember when AJ got here, like, I did not sleep. I mean, I wasn't already sleeping anyway, because I wake up every 2 hours, feed him. But, I wasn't sleeping in between because I was sitting there watching to make sure he was still breathing. And I'm just like, this is overwhelming. This too much. This can't be healthy, to sit here and stare at the baby while he in the crib. And then if he moved, then I would look just to make sure he didn't move to where he rolled on his face, or if the blanket covered his face and he suffocated himself. And it's just like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure something out, because now this is affecting my overall health, because I'm not sleeping. I'm angry, irritable, and being protective and anxious on top of all of that. So that's interesting. What about you, Kim? What are some of the mental health challenges you faced?
Well, with my first born, you know how they do the screenings when you're pregnant to see if you do have depression or whatnot. They were like, well, you have like little signs here and there, but you might just want to go talk to someone. So I said, fine, I'll go talk to someone. I did that. And like after she was born, I had some of the baby blues. And then like a year later, I finally was diagnosed with depression. And I was just like, okay, well, let me just keep on with therapy. It'll be okay. Well, my second child, well, my youngest, it was so crazy because we were in lockdown and I was already high risk because I had had a miscarriage in between my 2 kids. So I was just very anxious, very nervous. And I would tell my OBGYN, I was like, I don't have a connection with this baby. I don't feel like the butterflies. I don't feel happy that I'm pregnant again. And he was like, well, it's all normal, it'll come, just, you just got to work at it. It's going to be okay. And I was just like, are you sure? And I ended up, crazy enough, I ended up having to have my baby early in 2020. And I was just so scared, so nervous. But then when she got here, I was like extremely excited. But then again, the baby blues came. So having to try to balance all of that, giving birth by myself because my mom couldn't be there because of COVID. My partner, they were like, hey, he'll be able to come, but only at a certain time limit. He's not going to be able to be here when you do this or do that. And I was just like, so I'm going to be here by myself and I'm going to have to go through this by myself. And just remembering all of that, I was just like, well, maybe I should have just did a home birth. Maybe I should have thought about that. But those were some of the mental health issues that I was dealing with.
So
I can imagine that's scary, having to do that by yourself. Ooh.
I had a home birth, and I think that COVID may have played a little bit into that too, because with the home birth, you do get to decide who gets to be there, and it could be everybody that you know, or literally just you and your partner if you want to, or just you. And I feel like not being in a hospital environment kind of did help ease my anxiety in some ways, but also I do think that it may have exacerbated it a little bit because I was 42 weeks when I had her, and people were like calling me like, or well, when I was like 34 weeks, people were telling me, "You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it." And like every day that I would go to work or go to class, people would be like, "Oh my goodness, you're still here. You're still here." And so I started getting overwhelmed. And I'm even made a Facebook post like telling people like, please stop calling me, please stop texting me, asking me if baby is here. Like it's just like it's scaring me even more. And I was starting to feel like at the time that I was like 38 weeks, my OB dropped me because she didn't agree with the home birth. And so like I didn't have a growth scan or anything. I didn't know how big she was. I knew like just what the midwife would do. But I was like a little bit worried. And then in the state of Alabama, you can't go past 42 weeks and have a home birth. And so that was a lot of anxiety. And I was starting to question like, am I doing what's best for the baby, or am I just doing what I want to do? And am I doing it to like prove all those naysayers wrong? Like, what is really my motivation here? And so, I don't know. It was a ball of nerves.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I asked you all to fill out the questionnaire just to kind of help me figure out like where to go with the questions. And, I asked you to list out, you all to list out like your challenges and everything. But I will say the most common thing that I found was that everybody responded as though they felt as though they weren't doing enough, or they weren't good enough, or something to that rhythm. And then the other one was creating a work-life balance. And so I want to ask y'all, or just not work-life balance, but just finding balance. I wanted to ask y'all, how do you all find balance? Because we got these challenges. They're not going to go away. Childcare is going to be an issue. Work is going to be an issue. It's not going to resolve overnight. But how do you find balance with managing your own problems, your family life, work life, finding time for you, your own anxiety? Like, how do you find the balance to be the best mom that you can be?
Like crickets. If anybody has the answer,
That means nobody found balance yet.
I feel like I do pretty okay with it. Nobody's perfect by any means, and I want to hear all the suggestions as well. I lucked up. I have a wonderful spouse. He is so incredibly supportive, and not only of me and my goals and my ambitions. I'm back in school too, Aliyah. I'm in my doctorate program, and it's a lot. But like my husband has the kids downstairs, they're playing, they're hanging out, and he let me study this morning and do some things. And then, I'm here doing this, and not let me, it's not like that, but come on. I mean, he had to say, and I don't feel guilty about it. I don't feel like I'm leaving my family or leaving my kids. And that's the other thing. I don't put that pressure on myself. And that's one way I've dealt with it. You got your goals. I've got my dreams. I'm ambitious, and my husband knew that before we got married. And I want to raise my children to see that example as well. And whether you stay at home and that's your passion is to stay at home and to cultivate that kind of life, or if you want to work from home, work in the more general sense of the term outside of the home, all of it, I think, is a teaching example. And of guiding our children, and one's not better than the other, and neither are wrong. So I've never put that on myself. And I really, really do my very best to never compare the way that I mother or the decisions that I make for my children to anyone else's, because we all have different factors that influence the decisions we make. I truly want to support women and mothers. I'm not a basher. I'm not a naysayer. I'm not a, cut you off at your knees. I would much rather tell you how awesome you're doing and to praise the decisions that you make for your family, because that's what it is, your family, than to ever, be one that's in there trying to find the faults or find flaws. Because I certainly don't want anybody trying to do that to me. And that's helped me the most. The comparison has to go, and we have to quit, cutting each other down. Just to be a supporter makes me feel good about it. And it really alleviates my stress. And I don't know, it makes me feel like I have built better relationships and more solid relationships. So it alleviates just that pressure that we put on ourselves at first.
Yeah. That's good that you mentioned that you just don't put the pressure. So, because I think sometimes of what I feel, and a lot of, from what I hear from other moms, is that we put that unrealistic pressure on ourselves. Like, nobody said you had to do X, Y, Z, or that you had to live up to this super mom image and all this stuff. Like, those things just come from our own thoughts and expectations of ourselves. And then here we are stressed trying to live up to that unrealistic expectation that we set for ourselves. So that's a good thought to share. What about you, Kim? How do you find balance?
Finding balance is something that I'm still working at, but therapy really does help me. When I have my standing appointment with my therapist and I talk to her about what's going on, she's like, well, I've been there too. I'm a mom and, I work too. And I understand where you're coming from with this. She gives me a different perspective on how to look at things sometimes, because most of the time I'm always like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know how to get organized. She was like, well, let's just do some breathing exercises first. Calm down. It's not going to be all or nothing, because that's how I look at life. Sometimes it's either all or nothing. And she's like, you need to just calm down, think again about what it is that we need to work on. And she'll give me like little exercises to say, okay, you haven't taken any time this week to do anything for you. You've done everything for everybody else. You have to take some time and do something for you. That's part of your homework. And then next week when we talk, you need to be able to tell me what it is that you did for you, not for your kids, not for your mom, not for your boyfriend, but for you. And it has to be something for you. And for the longest time, I would tell her stuff and she'd be like, but that's not for you, Kim. That is for your kids. I might say, oh, I went shopping, but I bought clothes for the kids. And she's like, but you didn't get you anything? No, I got them something. She was like, no, you got to go ahead and do it again. And after a while, I was able to like really say, okay, I went out, I got my feet done. I went and took myself to dinner, and I had just a ball just being by myself and being able to be me, not Kari and Callie's mom or Kiko's girlfriend, but just me, Kim. So therapy has really helped me.
I'm glad you shared that, because that was one of my biggest concerns being a new mom. It's like, I'm going to lose myself in being a mother. And then on top of after being a mother, then being a wife, and then being a nurse, and, just my career, like, I'm not going to remember who Caroline is. And so I was just like, I have to make it a priority, and stick to some of those things that reminded me of myself, so I can be these other people that I need to be for everyone else. And so one of the things that I do, like me and my friends, because they're mothers, wives, one is in the doctorate program too. And so we're all busy. We used to be able to call each other, drop a dime, let's go to the club or let's go out to brunch and let's do this. And now it's like, search your calendar, tell me what dates you have available so we can meet up. And so we make it a plan to at least get together once a month, because that's about all we can find. And we either go out to dinner, we go to brunch, or we're at each other's houses. We're going to do something, but we make at least a plan to see each other. And when we see each other, that's our time to just do us, you know. You can't worry about your kids, you know, you can't worry about job stuff or school and all that stuff. Just at this one space, it's just about us. And so that has been very helpful for me with just maintaining that feeling of, you know, I still can be Caroline, at least one day a month, with my friends before I have to be, you know, everything else I need to be for somebody else. So I'm glad you shared that. So I do want to ask, before I move on to my next question, does anybody else have anything they want to add to that last question?
Okay. I do, but I have a screaming, well, there's a tantrum happening behind me. I don't know if y'all can see that on the floor, but I heard a speaker that I really admire say, someone asked her, like, how do you balance it all, or how do you do it all? And she was just like, I don't. I just make sure I'm fully present for each thing that I'm doing when I'm able to do it. I can't make it to every soccer game. I can't make it to, you know, every business meeting, but I just make sure to fully show up, put my phone on silent, and be present in that moment. So I'm that's my coping strategy. I'm trying to do that.
Hey, I respect that, and I like that frame of don't try to do it all, just be there. Basically, do what you can. You know, I think. And how do we do it all? That leads into that unrealistic expectation of feeling like we have to do it all, being that super mom. And I'm just like, I don't know how to. I'm still learning how to just be regular mom. So how to be super at it? I don't even like. Is there a class? You know? So I really do like that. I have to adopt that mindset when it comes to just managing things. And I see a little girl, she's active in the background, and I could just hear AJ down the hall just cutting the food on my mom. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But anywho, but yeah, I do appreciate some of the tips that y'all are sharing. So just to kind of wrap things up, let me ask y'all this, and if everybody can kind of chime in, but what are some of the tips that you would share with other new moms who may be in your current state in their motherhood? So Aliyah, someone who may have a 3-month-old, what would you share as far as just how to manage your mental health, take care of yourself, facing some of the challenges? What would you share with someone at that state?
Well, I feel like everybody's having babies right now. I just want to say that, like, we're having another big boom. And so I think I'm falling in the middle because I have like a lot of friends who just had babies. And now I've got friends who are just finding out they're pregnant. But at 3 months, I think that learning to let your spouse, partner, whatever you may call them, or anybody, letting them get through moments when you're in the shower and baby starts crying. Don't just like hurry and rinse off so you can go snatch baby from dad's hands or mom's hands. Just like let them comfort baby and learn. I just went back to work last week, and so like last night I was calling him like, what time did you change her? What time did she last eat? Stuff like that. And he was like, hey, I need you to stop doing that. Like, I know what I'm doing. And so it's just like trusting others if you're leaving baby in their care, then you kind of have to trust them and not be overbearing. Also take walks, join support groups on Facebook or apps. mommy dates with friends. All these things
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like have been helpful because one, like we talked about, it keeps you like you can still remember who you are and you can still have baby clothes and just changing the environment and also just know that you're doing a lot even if you feel like you're not like reading to baby every day and focusing like, oh, make sure she doesn't or he doesn't get too much screen time and stuff like that. Like it's okay. Babies will thrive. She's gonna thrive because she's learning so much just by looking around. You don't necessarily have to um like be teaching the baby at every waking
All the
moment.
time. Yeah.
And so it's okay to just chill and play. And sometimes when I'm sleepy, I'm like, I'm just gonna sleep all day, and baby, I'm gonna rock you to sleep, and you're gonna sleep with me, and that's okay because
Mhm.
we have to take care of ourselves too.
Stacy, what would you share? What tips would you share?
Well, mine are not quite as little anymore, but super cliche, and they grow up so fast, right? I promise you, Aliyah,
Mhm.
my little girl was just like that in my arms, and she will be 4 at the end of May. And it was literally in like the blink of an eye. So I would tell folks, my biggest things are really try as much as possible to enjoy as much as you can. To when they're kissing you and cuddling you, or you're having those movie nights, or you're baking those Christmas cookies, getting ready for church, to stop and actually like look at them in the face. And when you hug them, really hug them and like breathe it in. Listen to their little voice. I could get a little teary. Like listen to their little voice as they start to talk, or you're gonna hear soon the very first time she says mom. Like really try to just even for a minute, just pause and remember it and let it like go into that core memory cell. It is so fun to watch them grow up. It is a blast watching my kids' personalities and how different they are, but yet how similar they are in some ways, or how I see my daughter and my husband, or my son and me, and with certain traits. That's a blast. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love them being the age that they are, but just to even in like the really hectic day-to-day grind, to try to pull out some really special moments and just really soak it in. And then I loved what you said, Aliyah, about what did you say? It what did you say? It is what it is. It was a 2-word phrase. Let it go, let it be, it is what it is kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's basically going back to the whole look, we are the only ones putting these standards on ourselves, right? We're doing it. There is not a such thing as a super mom. I promise. There's not.
Mhm.
And if we can let it go and just remember some things, some days I might get a lot of things done around the house, and some days the only thing I may do is hold the baby and nurse. And it's all okay either way. And just the fact that you already have figured that out, you're way ahead of the game. You're way wise beyond your quote mothering years, because you've already figured out a big trick, which is to relax and let it be. Because, and like you said, about the learning too, you're exactly right. Them just hearing their surroundings and the noises and the sounds and the colors and the shapes, they're all just piecing it together, piece by piece. They don't have to be there. She's 3 months old. I don't need her to write her name, or recite the alphabet. It's all good. And just to let go of that pressure and what we put on ourselves. And I think we would all continue to be much happier, and our kids would too.
Oh yeah. I'm glad you said that about the whole house thing, because for the longest, I was trying to clean up and keep this house running. I was like, you know what? Them dishes is just gonna have to be there. It is what it is, you know.
Let me say this.
But
I know I love a clean house. My gosh, it is my heart. But, and this is cliche too, but you know, our wiser mothers, right? And the women who have come before us and raised their children and now they're going into their grandparent stages, they'll tell you, hey, you know what? You will have plenty of time for that clean, quiet house in about 20 years. And I'll promise you, all you'll want is to have some babies running around screaming and making a mess. And so we just have to remember the stage that we're in is a blessing too. And we'll get to the other one day, but we better not blink, or we better not really try to pass this up, because we're going to miss it.
yeah. What about you, Kim? What are your tips, takeaways?
Learning how to let go of being controlling. With my 6-year-old, she's about to be 7 soon, and she's very, very independent. And she is always telling me about, well, Mom, you know, I want to wear this to school. And I'm like, that doesn't even match. And she's like, well, I don't care, you know, I just want to put this on. So having to give up control and let her make her own mistakes, and just letting go of the battle. Like this week, I let her go to school in a dress that she wanted to wear, some leggings and some boots. She was ready for the weather and she had a blast. And she was like, oh, well, I matched somebody at school today. They had on the same kind of dress I did. And I was like, oh, okay. So learning how to let go and not want to control things so much, because they do grow up so fast, and just being like, okay, I see you're growing. I'm going to let you be independent because I'm not going to be with you all the time. So just that is something that you have to work on and learn how to do. And with my 18-month-old, just taking it in, because she's growing up seeing what her sister does, and she wants to do everything that her sister does. And I just know that, oh, Lord, I'm going to have another mini me going crazy in the next couple of years. But not feeling that you have to win every war with your kids, just being able to say, okay, fine, if this is what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting yourself or others, let's go with it.
Yeah, I can imagine. You said something there, not feeling like you have to win every war. I'm going to take that and keep that up here for when we get to that stage. And then, Lindsey, do you have any takeaways or tips you would like to share?
I don't think I can say it any better than anybody else. No, I can't say it any better. Yeah, let go and just savor the moment is, I think, really, really good advice. Be gentle with yourself. You're the one putting pressure on yourself, not your baby.
Baby?
Yeah, not your baby.
Yeah.
No.
Because your baby thinks you are the best person anyway. So, you know, they don't have an opinion of you right yet at that point. Anyway, you're the best person anyway. But I thank you, ladies, for joining me on your Saturday to have this conversation. I hope that, you know, what was shared was something that you can walk away with and use and share with others.
I would like to welcome you back, and I hope you were able to gain something from that roundtable discussion. I would like to send a special thank you to Miss Lindsey, Stacy, Nicole, and Aliyah for sitting down with me and sharing some of their struggles and the mental health challenges that they've experienced from parenting. Remember to comment below, like, subscribe, and share to this channel, because we are all about mental health detox, and this year is the year to get our mental health together. All right, I'll see you soon.